Hi, I'm Ross Sinclair, and I'm here with Asime Nyide.
Yes, sir.
And recently, I watched the Apple WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference.
Oh, and how was that?
It was very cool.
Oh,
They
okay.
they have like a film budget
Okay.
for a developers conference, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They have 34 million registered developers worldwide, which is more developers than many countries have a population.
Yeah, that's a lot of developers.
It's a lot of people. That's all external people building up the apps for their systems, the iPhone,
Yeah.
Mac. And they introduced some new cool features for developers, which we'll see as consumers pretty soon. And yeah, it's going to be quite exciting. Nothing major, but as Apple always do, is little changes which sort of make an impact over time.
Heard something about like new home screen design.
The iPhone home screen on iOS has been kind of the same for years.
Yeah.
And they had like one update with iOS 7 where they just changed the fonts and things. But ultimately, it's been very similar for a long time. And they've come with a completely new redesign now. It's very cool. So it has a lot more depth to it.
Okay.
You can have now the time appear behind the image. So there's almost a 3D aspect to it. There's new fonts, new colors. You can change and have multiple lock screens depending on what the mood is. They've even included a feature called focus mode. So focus modes already exist on iPhones, but now you can have a focus mode that directly correlates to a wallpaper, a lock screen. And so, for instance, say you're in your work focus mode, your lock screen will change to only show your to-do list for the day, your calendar, what you're doing, and it won't show anything else. It'll limit the notifications that come through.
Yeah, because I sometimes like the notifications are so much, sometimes you don't even
Exactly.
like see what you're like really looking for. Yeah.
They've also changed that, the way the notifications work.
Okay.
So they're making notifications used to come from the top and they'd like cover your image that you had as the background, which, what's the point then? You don't have a background image. So what they're doing now is the notifications roll in from the bottom and live update. So instead of like, for instance, if you have LinkedIn, you probably get lots of notifications for essentially the same thing, and they stack. So now what's going to happen is it'll just live update to the most recent information. They've also included things called live widgets. And so you can get information directly onto your lock screen. So for instance, the update on your Uber ride.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be a live progress bar, or how your workout's going, or what the weather is, all on your lock screen.
Do you know anything about the safety and privacy mode?
Yeah, they did something really cool, which I think is going to have a big impact on those in domestically abusive relationships. They've created a mode where you can close your partner in a shared account. You can hide information from them, hide your location, your passwords won't be shared. So if need be, you can get to safety if you are in a bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask in terms of the messages, messaging, like how is that changed?
Dictation, they've improved that. They've had that for a while where you can read out your messages and it types it out for you. But now there's a new feature where the keyboard will be open while you dictate. So you can like quickly interchange between speaking it out and then typing it if need be. And then you can change. So for instance, if you've highlighted text and you want to change that, you can then dictate that and change that in real time by speaking into your phone. And another big thing they've done, which a lot of other messengers have done before, is you can now delete messages that you've sent and you can edit them. So if you say something embarrassing or have a spelling mistake or something like that, you can go back in and change what that said.
Is there a duration on that? Like
so they're making it like, I think it's 15 minutes after it's first been sent. So you can't go and change something from 5 months back and,
Yeah, I know that makes sense.
Exactly. And so, it's just to make sure you don't make these little mistakes.
Yeah. And in terms of the live text.
On iPhones, I'm sure you might have noticed, when you take a picture of some text, you can highlight that.
Okay.
And then copy that directly into browsers or do anything with that. So it recognizes text from images. Now, they've added a few new features, but another thing is on video, you can pause and take text from single frames. So this is cool for like students, for instance, because they can watch a lecture and then pull the notes directly off of the board.
Man, like I just finished school, and I feel like that would have helped me like
Game changer.
Yeah, it would have been a game changer.
No,
yeah.
for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then you can now also, with one tap, convert currencies. So if you're in Europe, for instance, you can take a euro and convert it to rands or dollars or something live from the text. And then you can also translate text in another language directly in the image.
Wow.
Yeah.
And maps, Apple Maps.
So they've made a redesign. Certain cities have got like a 3D model so you can see what the buildings look like, everything like that.
Yeah.
They've got a few new features. I don't know how good it's going to be. We'll see as time comes on. It hasn't come to our country yet, so we won't be able to test that out. But
then I guess only time will tell, huh?
Only time will tell. In relation to the maps, when you're driving, Apple CarPlay has expanded.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you've seen with new cars when you get it's got that screen on and it starts to look like an iPhone. That's Apple CarPlay. They're extending that now with car manufacturers, that the entire interface will be Apple. So your speedometer, your rev counter, all of that will look like an Apple iPhone. This won't be implemented for a few years, but it's a bit interesting that the Apple ecosystem is expanding so far that it's literally taken over your car.
MacBook Air.
Well, in 2020, Apple moved over to their own silicon. They left Intel as the processor maker and started creating their own chips. They call it Apple Silicon.
Okay.
And they started with the M1 chip. And it turned out to be an incredible piece of technology. It's like super power efficient. It handles like high processing power with using very little energy. So you get great battery life on your laptops. I mean, it was a great surprise that they made something so good independently without one of these major, manufacturing, CPU manufacturing firms.
Is it a lot slimmer than like the older?
The new,
the new one.
It's around the same size, but they've changed the design with this one. So instead of being like with your one that you've got there, it sort of tapers. It's like a wedge. It becomes thinner as you go along. With the new MacBook Air, it's as thin, but it has a consistency the whole way through. They brought back MagSafe, which they started to move out of production in 2016. They didn't think it was good. Everyone was upset about this because it was a great charging thing. Because if you tripped over your cable, it didn't take your whole laptop with you. And so now that's back again, which is quite funny because it was supposed to be discontinued. But it's a good return.
Okay.
We're glad for it. But yeah, this new laptop looks very powerful. It's got a 1080p camera.
1080p.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously lots of us are working remotely now and doing a lot of virtual meetings. And so having a good quality camera is quite important. And more on that actually. Apple have included this very cool feature where you can now use your iPhone as a webcam. So you get a wedge, which you can attach to a MagSafe iPhone.
Okay.
And then stick it onto the back of your laptop. And then that will act as your webcam. And it has another very cool feature where it takes, I think it's called Desk View. It takes the wide angle lens and does a little bit of software trickery to make it look as though it's a perfectly flat image, as though there's a camera above you of your desktop. And so you can show you what you're working on. If you're drawing or something like that, the people you're speaking to will be able to see that camera angle.
MacBook Pro M2.
It's the 13-inch one. It's essentially the same MacBook as the previous one.
Yeah.
They've just changed the processor, so it's going to be a little bit faster. Okay. Still a power upgrade. I think across the board, the processing power is about 20% higher with the M2 than it is in the M1.
Ventura.
Yes, the new operating system for Macs. Yeah. It's also essentially just, it's not even a redesign. It looks very similar, but they've added some new cool features. Okay. So one of the things is now, with the ecosystem being at what it is, you can now take a FaceTime call and easily transfer it directly from your phone onto your laptop, onto your iPad, switch between them very quickly, interchangeably. So it just allows for really ease of movement between devices.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, it's super efficient. So you don't have to hang up and then redial. They've also implemented a thing which I'm quite excited for called Stage Manager. And so what it'll be, it's great for productivity because instead of just having one page on your screen and then having to sort of search through everything to find other pages if you're working on multiple different applications at once, what Stage Manager lets you do is it centers the page you're working on And then on the side of the screen, it has little versions of the other pages, so you can see what they are, and you can easily switch between them. So for instance, you have a document that you have to look up to research. Yeah. You can quickly switch to that, read it, copy, paste, and then immediately switch back to the text document that you're writing on. Yeah.
That's so like efficient.
The changes aren't so much lifestyle changes and things like that, but it's more about improving people's quality of life. So with the focus modes, which I use a lot, those sort of things are to make people more efficient. I mean, even a lot of things in the Apple Watch are just to move people away from constantly being on their phone. It just lets you be more efficient because you can use your watch. I mean, they've even created the one mode, I think it's called focus mode, I think. But if you're on Safari, for instance, once you put on focus mode, it will remove any of the tabs you have open. It'll hide them that aren't related to the work you're doing. And so you only will focus on the tabs that you need for work. So it's hopefully going to be very good for people trying to be productive.
Yeah. Then I need to get myself an Apple phone or something.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. You're going to need to with this Passkeys situation as well.
Oh, okay. What's going on with that?
So Apple don't want us to have passwords anymore, essentially. They don't think it's very safe, but you have to be a part of the ecosystem, which is a bit interesting. So essentially what it is Apple will generate passwords for you when you're on websites or in applications, and you need your biometrics from your phone or your laptop or your iPad in order to unlock that. So you'll use your Face ID or the fingerprint scan on the laptop in order to get into websites, and you won't know what the password is. And then that becomes a bit dodgy if, say, for instance, you've got a Windows laptop.
Yeah.
So what they have done is you can now use your iPhone, for instance, to then unlock a Windows PC, well, the passwords for that. But they drag in as many people as they can into the ecosystem and not letting them leave.
Yeah, that's typical Apple.
Typical of Apple, it's true. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.